So if you're going to come out, pick Canada. Especially, you might want to pick Second City, Toronto, the comedy school that gave rise to Gilda Radner and the lovely Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy. At least that's where I was hanging out as I was waiting to see if I could get into Canada. And so I walked into this classroom with blue AstroTurf carpet and these long white folding tables with like 10 chairs on each side. And there were two people in the room, a black Canadian rapper with a bunch of tattoos and piercings, and a white blonde woman in a tan corporate suit. So of course I sat down next to the rapper because I want to be with the cool kids. And the fluorescent lights are kind of beating down and people are filing into the room. And then the teacher appears kind of out of nowhere, this woman who's going to teach us all how to write and create our own solo show. And she's blonde and stocky. Her name is Deb Kemet, and she's kind of stomping around the room. And she says, fucking whiteboards. I mean, who likes whiteboards? I fucking hate them. And what's with these like markers? They're all dry. No one could write with these. And then she like spins around abruptly and makes eye contact with every single one of us and says, writing is very scary. Very scary, eh? Ha 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 ha. And I'm like, what the fuck? Now, I fell in love with Toronto almost immediately, and things went so well. I got an acting agent within like 3 days, and I found an immigration attorney, and I filled out all my paperwork, and I had this community of actors, and we got together and did scenes, which is like heaven for me. But now things weren't going so well because my agent hadn't gotten me any auditions. And the immigration attorney is trying to convince me to lie and say that I don't have PTSD, and I kind of hate her. And I met this filmmaker who told me that my work just might be a little too edgy for Canada. So Deb, she has us all introduce ourselves, fine. And then she says, and now I want all of you to draw a picture of the creature inside you who doesn't want you to write. And then she hands out these big sheets of white paper and basket full of crayons, and she says, do it. It's now or never. So there's like 25 of us, and we're all drawing pictures of our demons, and the Canadians are using pastels so that their demons end up looking kind of like pretty pony unicorns. And my black, red, and purple monster with the bloody fangs seems like one more indication I may not get into Canada because I'm too edgy. And then Deb says, now I want you to write a 6-word sentence that describes your entire solo show. And everybody's like, what? I mean, like, who can do this? And she says, do it, use the crayons. And I'm like, I don't think I would even be here if things in Canada were going better right now because I'm so ambivalent about my topic, which is actually the secret that I don't want Canada to know. So I write about 10 sentences, 8 of which completely obfuscate my topic so you can't tell what it is. And then Deb, of course, says, and now we're all gonna read these to each other. Come on, tear the Band-Aid right off. And I'm like, oh shit. I may faint or have a convulsion, or maybe that monster on the paper will come to life and eat Deb Kemet. But of course none of that happens. Instead she points, and the first person to go is this 20-something guy with very pale skin and a shock of dark hair. And he's all like skinny long legs and long arms, and He reminds me a lot of my younger brother when he was that age, and he's got a lot of mischief on his face, and he says, it's not 6 words. And then he reads, dying millennial gets depressed and then comes to terms with short life expectancy. It turns out that his brain is eating itself, and he's going to die, and he's decided he might as well make that funny. And I think, oh my God, I seriously have no excuse. And so the next person to go is the corporate woman, and she reads something like, stressed out manager suffers in office and leaves her job. Fine. And then it's my turn. And I look down at my paper and I say, so I guess you want me to read one of these sentences? And Deb bends down so that her eyes are right on line with mine, and she says, that's the idea. And I say, so I guess that means I have to like pick one of these? And she says, that would be good. And then I say, so that means that I actually have to say these words out loud? And she doesn't even say anything, she just like looks at me. So I get my nerve up and I read from my paper, Queer Multiple Struggles to Immigrate to Canada. And Deb says, what's with the drama? Like, then she's off on gender nonconformity, and she's saying, you know, you and the LGBTQ community, I mean, you're taking over the alphabet, and what's with the pronouns? I'm so confused. And I realize that she has no idea what I just said. Do you know what I mean when I said that I'm multiple? I ask. And she says, like with this kind of pride, like she's, you know, she's in with the club. And she says, yeah, you have multiple gender preferences. And I say, there is that. And I also have multiple personalities. And there's this silence, kind of like this one. And she says, oh. Okay. And you know, I'm the only American in a room full of Canadians, and they're all making eye contact with me, and they're giving me a thumbs up, and they're high-fiving me, and they're saying, you go, good for you. I mean, Canadians really are ridiculously nice. And then the dying guy looks at me and he says, you know, that's a show I would really like to see. And our eyes lock, and there's this kind of instant sibling connection. So for the rest of the workshop, we write jokes, and mine include, I'm a focus group all by myself. And in answer to the border guard's repeated question, no, I don't have any automatic weapons, and neither do any of my other personalities. So this all kind of leads, it's the end of the class, and I go up to Deb and I say, listen, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to miss the first half of our last class because I have improv at the same time, and you know, unfortunately, I do only really have one body. And she says, even you. And then we both laugh. And there it is, acceptance. And I find myself so grateful for comedy and for Canada and for this odd sequence of events of definitely not getting what I want when I want it, that has led me to this room with these people who are my people. And then I realized that everyone is my people, because that's what coming out does for you. It teaches you that you are a member of the human family, and that all of me, has a right to be here. So I go home, and that week Deb emails me and she says, Canada is all about diversity, and if my government doesn't let you into this country, they're a bunch of fucking hypocrites. Well, obviously I'm here, I did not get into Canada. I did, however, finish that show, and I toured it. And the title of it was Many Trump Refugees in One Body. And a couple years later, I created a web series with a plural character, and I played that character. And this year, I'm releasing a memoir that is written in all my many voices with a different font for each personality. So, thank you, Canada, for accepting me and rejecting me and pissing me off enough that I tore down my walls and publicly unmasked and demanded a seat at the table, which is what I think we all need to do. Thank you.